it's very important that you understand that human beings are different. It's going to seem to you for the first 20 or 30 years of your life at least that human beings are very similar. You're going to look at human beings as though they are copies of you. It's going to seem that they feel like you, they behave like you, they look like you. It takes a while. It takes a good 30 years or so of observing people to start to notice the important distinctions and differences between people. So what I want you to understand about people really quickly is the following thing. If you just go to a shopping mall or a crowded area and you observe people walking around at Walmart or something, and just sit there and people watch for half an hour, observe people's physical appearances. Only pay attention to how their bodies are different. If you sit there and you do that for half an hour, what you will see is how seriously different people's bodies are. You're going to see short people, tall people, skinny people, fat people, really, really fat people. You're going to see white people, black people, Asian people, Indian people, Somali people, African people. You're going to see disabled people. You're going to see people that are beautiful, ugly, and somewhere in the middle. You're going to see people with lots of pimples. You're going to see people with lots of moles. You're going to see some people walking funny. You're going to see some people with only one arm or only one leg. Some will be in wheelchairs. Some will be old. Some will be young. Some will be in the middle. Some will be really, really old. Some will be just little infants. Some will have gigantic breasts. Some will have no breasts. And everything in between. Some will have weird colored hair, tattoos and piercings and all this sort of stuff. Others won't. They will also, of course, all be dressed differently. Some will be dressed real nice. Some will be dressed like homeless people and everything in between. So you observe all that. That's you observing the person from the outside. Now, I want you to translate that lesson to what's going on their inside, their mind. So the most important point here is not that people are different externally, physically. What's more important is that people are different internally in their minds. So the key mistake and trap that is made here is that because we can't see the mind, we tend to assume that, well, yeah, physically, it's hard to deny physical differences. You know, there's a man, there's a woman, they're obviously different. One's black, one's white, one's fat, one's skinny, whatever. Very clear. But we can't so clearly look into a person's mind. So what we do for the first 30 or 40 years of our life is we sort of project our own mind into others, and we tend to assume that, well, if I am introverted, then that person must be introverted. Or if I like going to a party, then everyone likes going to parties. Or if I like being a doctor, then most people should like being doctors, and so on. This is not the case. This is not the case. In fact, people are so different in their minds that consider the following possibility. This is a radical possibility, is that imagine that your mind is so different. Remember, like I said, the mind and physical reality at a deep level, metaphysically, are actually interconnected. They're not separate things. People's minds are so different that it's almost as though they're living in different realities. Now, of course, our realities interpenetrate, which is why we can all stop at the same stoplight and not crash into each other. Our realities are coherent and consistent in that way. But there are other ways in which our realities are not, where they're individuated, we might say. And so this is the point I want to emphasize here, is really try to understand that people have different personalities, different genetics, different brain chemistry, different ideologies and software that is running their mind, a different operating system. Sometimes you're talking to somebody, it seems it's like physically you two might look even close and similar, but internally the software that you're running is so different that it's like communicating between a Mac and a Windows PC, or even like a Linux, or even something totally alien. Sometimes it's like talking to an alien. You're just not on the same page at all. People have different levels of ambition, different levels of motivation, different fear profiles, what they're afraid of, different degrees of neurosis and trauma that they experienced in their past, different energy levels, different moods. Some are more happy, some are more depressed, some are more positive, some are more negative, optimistic, pessimistic, whatever. Some are introverted, some are extroverted. Different personality types. People are at different stages of development, different levels of consciousness. And sometimes they even have different access to different aspects of reality. They don't see the same things that you or I see. Of course, we like to lock some of those people up in mental institutions. But that doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong with them. It just might mean that they're different. And you might be one of those people. You might be different. So the reason I'm telling you this is, first of all, when you recognize how different people's minds are, that helps you to, again, really try to customize life to yourself. Because what works for somebody else does not necessarily work for you. You can't just assume that. That would be true if everyone's minds were the same, but that's not the case. Also, it means that advice isn't the same for everybody. Some advice will work for some types of minds, but not other types of minds. This also helps you to start to turn inwards more and to honor your own self and to really question yourself deeper. Because life is not just a process of exploring external reality and other people. It's a process of exploring your own self. Because you don't really know who you are. And I don't mean in the enlightenment sense. I mean, you don't know who you are as a personality, as an ego. You don't know who you are. You don't know what kind of food you like when you start life. You don't know what kind of sex you like. You don't know what kind of marriage or children you would like to have, or whether you would like to have them at all. You don't know what kind of career you'd like to have. You don't know what kind of school you'd like to go to, and what kind of country you'd like to live in, what kind of weather you like. You don't know these things until you go through a deep process of discovering yourself at a personality level. And that's what the first few decades of your life are spent doing after you're an adult. Your 20s and your 30s, you're really in a deep process of discovering yourself as a personality. And this is a very important process. A lot of people skip over this process, and they skip over all of my advice in general. And instead what they do is they waste their time.